My name is Rylie Miller. I've been invited on the... what is the name of this podcast?
Okay, so
I don't even know the name.
First couple of guests we had, they never... Because Caleb starts off the podcast, he's like, hello, and welcome to a new voice show.
Voice show.
Yeah, so the podcast is another new voice show.
That's the name of it.
Yes.
I've been invited on another new voice show because I'm a cool guy and they know me, but because my dad and I produced this book called The Great Trees of California.
There you go.
Yeah.
And we wrote it over the course of 4 years, so pretty much the course of high school, and it's finally out.
Yeah.
Awesome. That was the best intro we've had from guests so far.
Borderline anyone.
Yeah, that's probably better than any intro I've ever done for our podcast.
You laid out the whole premise of this episode. Thank you.
That's so good. I don't even have to make a clickbaity title to bring people into that middle part of the episode, because that's what I keep doing. It's like I'll talk about something that happens like 30 minutes in. But now, no, it's like I'm just going to title this like Great Trees of California with Rylie Miller.
Yeah.
And there we go. Boom. It starts off that way.
Okay, and starting off with that, I've compiled questions. Have you compiled questions?
I kind of was just going to go with the flow because I really like the way you interview. So I was just going to build off of that because you're a really good interviewer.
There you go.
Because usually, I used your questions last time on the last interview. But
then you came up with better questions after that. So I was like, well, he's got this.
Okay, well, yeah. So that actually brought up two things in my head, which was, one, your promotional videos that you released on Twitter before this came out.
Oh my God.
Which we might get into later. Because those
we
are
have
amazing.
to get into those. I love those.
They're amazing. And then the other one, which was, you said that this book was written for 4 years, over the course of 4 years, which was essentially all of high school, which I was looking forward to because you and I graduated high school together. But
Previous year, 2016, is when we graduated.
There we go.
But you didn't come to the school until sophomore year.
Right.
So I was looking to see what your freshman year experience was before I met you. Unfortunately, the book starts in sophomore year, doesn't it?
It does.
So I missed out on what I was gonna learn about you as a person. So tell us about. It took 4 years, but it started in sophomore year, and that was because that was when you moved away from your dad, right?
Right. The book it's like the opening, the first 2 chapters, and then the last chapter are kind of personal.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a run-of-the-mill. It's a tree pun, by the way, boys.
The run-of-the-miller.
Run-of-the-miller.
There we go.
It's a little bit more personal, and so my freshman year, I went to South Fork High School, which is a very small rural high school in southern Humboldt County. And if you look up the address, it says Avenue of the Giants 5536 or something like that. So it's literally on the Avenue of the Giants, and you get these 300-foot tall trees when you walk out of your high school.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So we would like...
That's how cool it is.
Yeah. And I thought it was really cool personally. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I was like, dude, do you see this? And he's like, yeah, I've been living here my entire life. Like, you know, the people in Humboldt are just like, yeah, they're just trees.
I'm bored.
Yeah.
Show me something cool.
But my dad and I started talking about the trees more personally because I was like, Dad, like, Mom's moving away. I'm gonna move away too. Like, the school was really, it was a bad school. Like, the people were great, really open-minded, like, cool community. But it's just the school didn't have much funding. Like, one year we almost lost our buses.
Wow.
And it's a really rural area. Like people live like 20 miles out the road.
Yeah.
And so I saw that, and my brother was graduating. He was a senior when I was a freshman, so he had just finished up high school, and my mom was looking for an opportunity to move. And so I went with her. But my dad and I started talking even more about trees in that time. And he was just like, oh, do you see that tree? And I'm just like, yeah. And he told me about the various places he lived. He would go check out the trees. He'd be like, you know, I'm living in Seattle. I'm going to go check out all these fir trees or something. And then he got up there and he realized that all the trees in Seattle look the same. They're all like, they all got those needles. You know? He was like, I'm just going to learn all the ferns then. And there's a chapter in here that kind of like ad-libs it. You know, it's one of us brings up, let's write a book about trees.
Yeah.
My dad had written a weight loss book before this.
Oh, really?
Oh, so he's an experienced writer.
He didn't go to school for it or anything. He was just writing because he wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he did a weight loss book and then a book about divorce. That's a little bit more personal.
Okay.
But he was on the book train, and I was 15, and I was like, sure, like, why not write a book?
Yeah.
I don't like. What's the what's the bad part about it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, does that answer your question? I got a little bit taken off there. Okay, cool.
No, it does.
So freshman year me was just stoked about trees and a little bit sad.
And I did get that from the first few chapters. That was like definitely I felt that emotion and the reason for this book being made.
Yeah.
Also at the same time in the conclusion, which is you wrote, and it's very emotional. And I think I texted you this when it happened, but I ordered the book off Amazon. It took a few days to get here.
What kind of shipping did you get?
I think I just did standard.
Oh, dude.
I know.
Dude, I have to order mine now because I feel like you only gave me the book like 5 days ago, something like that. So I haven't had the whole chance to read everything. I've just been like skimming as much as I can, and it just like I really have enjoyed what I've read, and I feel like I should also give the book back to you. So it's like I want my own copy.
Take your time.
Over here.
Although you have the copy.
Yeah.
I want you to sign it before you leave.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
I need a signature.
Yes.
But no, with that conclusion, my mom picked up the book just because she saw it, and she opened it up and read just the conclusion. I don't know why that's what she decided to read.
Smart woman.
Yeah.
She just used the last chapter of books. She's one of those people.
Yeah, and she teared up because it hit her so hard.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now I really need to read it.
But no, it's a very especially I think your dad wrote the chapter on the dogwoods.
He did write the one on the dogwood.
I really enjoyed that one.
I read that whole chapter. That was really good.
Yeah.
So I really like that.
So do you like it because it's personal and it's like a story moment, or what brings it out about you?
Yeah, so I like it because it's personal, and I got to learn more about you as a person and what your history was like, but also this thing that tree watching that you've been talking. Yeah. And I thought that you as a family had been doing it for for a long time before you wrote this book, but it turned out from your introductory question, you got into it because of the book. It sounds like.
Yeah,
that's cool.
My family had always been about the trees, if you could say that. On my dad's side, they have this nice ranch in northern Mendocino. It's like a couple 100 acres, and they've had it in the family since like my great grandpa.
Okay.
On the matriarchal side, and it's beautiful. There's huge Douglas firs and oak trees and maples and chinkapins and yews and I can keep throwing them out. They're all out there.
Yeah, you got them all.
And so they had always walked around and like admired the trees.
Okay.
And so I guess they'd always gone tree watching, but we just gave it a name.
You gave it. So wait. So does that mean?
Did you coin the term tree watching?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's really cool because I thought I was no wonder I had so much trouble Googling how to get into tree watching.
We're trying to start it. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Well, because that is really interesting because I after reading the book I did get really interested in learning about the trees in the area and how to identify them. I think. The ones I'm good at recognizing now are valley oaks, blue oaks, and gray pines. And you did not have a chapter on gray pines, but you mentioned them. And
so sorry.
Yeah, no. Well, the pine trees in this area always look different from the ones that you think of. So I was curious as to what they were. So you mentioned gray pines are near blue oaks. I googled that, and I was like, oh, that's what's here.
Yeah.
But you had something to say about that. What was that?
Something specific like
you.
Oh, okay.
You
So
motioned
the
at me.
gray pine is it's the digger pine.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's the name of it, but don't call it the digger pine.
That's not a nice name.
It's not a nice name. It's a derogatory term for the native people.
Yeah.
That would dig up the roots.
Yeah.
But that's what I wanted to say.
Okay.
So
we learned a little bit about pine. See, we're learning about trees.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa.
Tree watching is we're trying to organize hikes.
That's cool.
We're trying to organize like people to get together and like let's go on a walk and just go look at trees.
That
and,
sounds great.
Like maybe have lunch next to the river.
That'd be awesome.
Is that here in this area?
It's wherever we are.
Wherever,
Like we're really trying to start
could
it.
have like a traveling crew of just people who walk around and look at trees,
Like
which
Forrest
would
Gump.
sound weird. Yes.
Like Forrest Gump.
Yes. You could be the Forrest Gump of trees.
I want to go home. You never watched trees again.
Could you imagine you just going at the top of a mountain, just be like, You know what, guys? We've seen enough trees.
We've seen enough.
You just leave them up there and you just walk away.
Bye.
You can hear the cold mountain breezes. Like,
You know what sounds better?
what's that?
Ficuses. We just need to learn all about it.
It's a gang war. It's the tree watchers versus the ficus watchers.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
So I thought this would be a good send-off, but we actually have a lot to get to, so I'm just going to ask it now.
Go ahead.
How would you recommend people get into tree watching?
Just go outside.
Just go outside?
Really just go outside. I mean, look for something. Like
something specific?
Something like just one tree. Because if you can pick out just one tree, you can pick out another one and another one. Be like, I'm going to go look for like a cottonwood. And you see the huge cottonwood trees that are blowing their like little pollen that looks like cotton everywhere. And you're like, wow, that's cool. Like, I figured that out on my own.
Yeah.
And it's like, you get this like self-gratification going on. And then you go home and you're like, I'm going to learn about the black oak now. And then you become a master tree watcher.
That was, I mistook what I believe are valley oaks for black oaks.
Yeah.
Do we have a lot of black oaks in Northern California, or where do you find those?
So yeah, you do it. Northern California is super diverse.
Okay.
But right now we're in the northern Central Valley, so it's just arid and hot, and it gets like I think the average is 60 inches of rain. So you get valley oaks.
Yeah.
But if you go over to the coast, you get huge coastal live oaks, which is like one of the tallest oak tree, and then huge black oaks too.
Yeah. Okay.
I have there's pictures in here from a place called Black Oak Ranch in northern Mendocino. So there are huge ones.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I mean, when I looked up the picture of the leaves or whatever for those, I found that they were like basically what you think of when you think of an oak leaf, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But you mentioned pictures in your book.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Yeah, and that was your dad, right? Your dad did the tree photography, or?
Yeah, I will give him credit for most all of it.
So you took like all of those pictures? Well, pretty much all of them?
Us combined did all the work on the book.
That's awesome.
Okay. So
all of it.
You both had your hands in every aspect of it.
Yeah. It's a cool project because
So was it like a true 50-50? Like
it balances out to a true 50-50.
That's awesome. So it was completely teamwork. There was no part where he's like, hey, you know what, I'll just handle this part. Like would you both go in and then both have your hands in when it came to layouts of different pages and stuff like that?
The layout, I gotta give it up to Dad. He did a lot of the layout, and I finished it. Like he. Have you ever used like a graphic design program before? Have you ever used InDesign?
Yeah.
You've used InDesign.
I've used InDesign a little bit, but I'm mostly a Photoshop kind of guy. That's where most of my design stuff
It's part of the creative suite. So we laid out the whole book in InDesign.
Okay. And
we didn't know how to use InDesign. Now, InDesign...
That's the worst problem. When you're using a graphic design program and not knowing how to do anything.
Yeah, because like with it, we learned like how to set up master pages and all this stuff that makes it easy. We didn't know how to do any of that. So we were just like laying out text boxes and putting in pictures, and it was like this huge like monster document.
Yeah.
That was like 180 pages, and it was like crashing the computer because we didn't know how to use it.
Yeah.
So he like if my dad would get frustrated with the computer, I would be like, all right, like you go take a walk or something. I'll
go look at some more trees.
I'll do this.
Yeah.
And we actually put in new pictures to the book as we were laying it out. Like I would have been working like putting in like this picture right here, and then he'd be like, dude, wait a minute, like look at these pictures I just got on my walk, and he'd pull out his iPhone.
We gotta start over.
Yeah. Like, new project. No, you just send them to me, and I would just boop, put them right in.
Okay, nice. I like it.
And so he took a lot of the pictures. I took a lot of the pictures too, and I did a lot of writing. He did a lot of writing. It was a true 50-50 project.
Okay,
that's awesome.
That's interesting, and that was something I think I hope I picked up on it, but as you get into the book, you kind of get to learn who's writing which chapter.
How do you tell? What's your tell?
I just try to look at the speech mannerisms or the writing patterns. I don't know. I just kind of tried to get a sense of it. I wasn't like looking for a specific. Oh, he used 2 commas. That's how I know who this is.
Who do you think wrote Douglas Fir?
My guess was your dad.
I wrote Douglas Fir.
Dang it, I'm wrong. Probably got him all wrong. Did you have a favorite one to write?
My favorite one to write, it was... Oh, man. We had like 3 iterations of writing the chapters. As I said, we did it over 3 years.
Yeah.
And the first year, we didn't know what we were doing. We just knew we wanted to do a book.
Yeah.
So, like, one like one break. I think it was just like a weekend after sophomore year, junior year. He like came up and picked me up in his RV, and we drove up to Bernie. You know that place where they shot that movie.
I forget what they did shoot something up there, but I forget what it is.
There's like the bridge, and the movie's about the kids that go out and they find the dead kid.
Oh yeah, what is that? I forget the name of that.
That's
movie,
a really good movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, we went up there and we just like wrote about anything that came to our mind about trees.
There's so much up there when it comes to trees.
Yeah.
And there are most of Northern California is just trees.
It's just dense.
Yeah.
And so like the thing is, we ended up scrapping all of that writing.
Oh,
We went
really?
up there and we wrote it. We wrote a bunch and we read it the next day and we're like, yeah, this is terrible, but at least we wrote about it.
Yeah.
I hate that.
You get the writing juices flowing.
Yeah.
That is interesting though, because I remember talking to you maybe about the second year this book was in the process, and you told me that you were having troubles with your publisher or your editor. I don't remember who, but
Probably the editor.
okay, because they kept thinking you were having trouble explaining to them that this is not an educational book.
Yeah.
Which, at the time, I just was like, okay, yeah, of course. That's a common problem. But in my head, I was like, I have no idea how you're going to write a book about trees without it being educational.
Yeah, I know. Like when you were telling me like that similar story, I was like, wait. So it's called The Great Trees of California. I look at the cover, I see a picture of a tree and the Golden Gate Bridge. That takes me back to like 7th grade science class learning about trees. How is this not going to be something where it's like, the Douglas fir is this tree all about, and I just don't see how you get... Because, I mean, there are definitely facts thrown in throughout the book, but then on top of those facts, it goes into these, like, stories.
Yeah.
Where it's like a deep history, but not only about the tree itself, but about the area surrounding the tree and the life that it sort of gives and takes. And there's just so much in each chapter about each tree that is not... It's not even really educational as much as it is just like... It's like story time.
It's story time.
It's awesome. No, that's not a bad... I don't mean that as like anything at all as like bad. It's awesome.
It seemed like a collection of stories that you would read at night before bed. But I think the best explanation of how the book works was actually given in the introduction, where it described it as a humanistic approach to tree watching, right?
Humanistic approach to tree watching.
Yeah, and so
That's one facet.
what does that mean to you?
A humanistic approach to tree watching means that trees are nothing without the people.
Okay. So what you give the value, or you give the meaning to the tree?
It's a self-proclaimed value you have on these trees.
Okay.
And that's why some of this writing is like, how did he get so much content about like a tree?
Yeah.
What?
That's what I was wondering too, because I'd like read through this one thing, and it's like there are so many pages about this tree.
Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
I'm just gonna quote it.
Do you have a passage you want to read?
So I'm just gonna quote the first little like stanza in Douglas Fir, the chapter called Douglas Fir, and it says, "The Douglas fir gets the blue ribbon for being the second tallest tree in the world."
Yeah.
We gave out blue ribbons to trees.
That's what I really liked.
like
Like,
that.
each chapter started off that way too. It's like,
We gave out blue ribbons to them. It's like you just have to look at it and you just have to like personify it. And you have to give it like a feeling or a memory. Otherwise, it's just like, yeah, it's got bark and it's green and it grows. Okay, what do I care about?
it starts as a seed and then it becomes a more.
Because
about a foot a year.
And so when you do that, you have to like. It's like I think in here I talk. I have a quote from Woody Allen. And,
Yeah,
like,
I remember that.
I put in like weird quotes like, "I would not want to be in a club that would have me as a member." I don't really know why I put that quote in there. It's just
was it something you just thought of when you saw that tree? Was it like something that kind of connected with you, or was that more with just like the writing? Like, you know what, this belongs here.
I think it's because I said the Douglas fir is a fir, but it's not a true fir.
Oh, okay.
So it's not technically
Gotcha.
in the club of firs, but it's called the Douglas fir.
Got it.
And so he's like, yeah, man, I wouldn't want to be a fir. You know? They'd have me as a fir. And it's like fun too. It's like if you're just reading through like strict text, it's boring.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're going for like, yes, I want to get my educational high going. But it's like when you do this, you have a little quote in there. It's fun for people to read.
Well, one thing that also kept me really hooked as I kept reading it was the layout was actually really interesting because everything was interweaved. Yeah. It wasn't like, your standard textbook where there's square here in the corner, square maybe in the center. There's different edits when it comes to the pictures. There are different shapes. The text moves with the picture.
Oh yeah, look, it's like
it's not like there's times where there's just huge spaces between words just so that there's room for one word, Yeah. I thought that was super cool.
Yeah, no, it is
really Thank you guys.
No, I legitimately I thought that like, wow, that's a unique way because it's really not like reading a regular book. It's so much more.
You and your dad both give it you definitely give the book a personality.
Definitely,
and it's got a flair.
Yeah, and it reflects your both of your personalities very well. That was interesting though about how you were talking about how you give the trees meaning. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering how much, because you actually have I feel like it was a whole chapter dedicated to the chemistry of water, right?
Capillary action.
Yeah, I remember reading a lot of. I was really.
Yeah.
That was weird how it was all of a sudden because I was expecting trees, and then that was really early in the book too. It was all just like, here's water.
Yeah, I think we have some introduction chapters.
Yeah.
Sorry, I hit that.
No, that's fine. Don't worry about it.
We have some introduction chapters that you kind of have to see the tree book through.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to be like, okay, they do tree watching, and, we have a really interesting chapter about capillary action, which is like, my dad was kind of, we were both kind of like, dude, how do they get the tree, like the water 300 and whatever feet up and tall on a redwood tree? Mm-hmm. And then you start to see, if you see like old growth redwoods that are there's no shade competition. Mm-hmm. The top of them will start to die. Yeah. Right? Because they don't need to pump it that high up. Gotcha. Like they don't need to pump water that high up anymore because they can get all the sunlight they need just by being shorter.
That's interesting.
And I learned some stuff about chemistry that I forgot.
Yeah.
When he showed me that, he's like, yeah, covalent bonds and water's sticky.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I thought was really interesting. Like just that whole entire thing, just saying, water is really sticky, and that like instantly I was like, okay, I have to read this whole thing because I was reading that. I was on my break from my job. I was on my 15, and I've spent the entire 15 reading about water and how it's sticky. I never thought in my life I would be doing that.
Right.
Yeah. And I was enjoying it.
How did you feel about he kind of gives you breaks from it?
Yeah.
He's like, so now all the drops are climbing up the xylem tube together. They are climbing the walls and pulling each other up. This train of water drops has bonded together and is moving straight up the redwood tree. This is capillary action. No way! Really? That's it? That's all it takes? That's in the book. There's a banter. An internal
stuff like that. It kind of just made it sound like, because he has this writing style of a dad. Yeah. He sounds like a dad, and that's not bad because it makes it's relatable. It's like, okay, so if I was going to learn about capillary action from my dad, this is how he would write about it. And then we go, yeah. I loved all the pictures of you guys when you were in them too. I thought that was really cool. It was a lot more pictures of you, I noticed, than of pictures of your dad.
He was the photographer for the most part.
Okay.
So that's why there's more pictures of me.
Oh, and there's one thing I was going to ask too. When there were pictures of you in there, were those just your dad's chapters where he would use pictures where you were involved? Or ones that you would write, would you use pictures of yourself too?
Oh, we would...
Because I thought that might have been a tell. He would use pictures of you in his chapters more than you would use pictures of him.
We didn't really think about the people per se.
Okay.
In the
you don't really
person,
need to. Yeah.
But we wanted to have at least a person in the chapter.
Because one person per chapter.
Because if you just look at a picture of a tree, it's that's cool. But if there's a person in there, it just makes it so much more interesting. I feel like
there was one picture. It was some guy walking through the streets of San Francisco. It was pretty early in the book, and it was just a naked dude.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was whoa.
That's for the people that read the introduction.
Yeah.
And they're just wow, I'm into this book now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was cool. There was one question though I was curious about is that you do talk a lot about the facts and the history of the tree and the way it was treated by the people who were living in the area or what its commercial value was. But then you also go into even meditations that you can do specifically for those trees. That might have been mostly your dad. How did you balance the facts and science of it with what seemed to be almost a spirituality of how you approach tree watching?
Mm-hmm. It reflects the personality. I want to say that it reflects personality.
Of
I think he has a view of trees that is a lot more spiritual than mine.
Okay.
You know, I have in my writing, there's some spiritual stuff in there, you know, every now and then, but it's not like when he talks about the mantra of the manzanita and it goes, which is like a yogi chant. And he's more into that kind of stuff. But I saw the trees from a factual and a funny standpoint.
Yeah.
I guess. So I guess that answers your question.
I was curious about that.
You're not the only one that's brought that up to me.
Huh.
Like my stepdad, he got the book and he reads it every day when he's going number 2. You know, it's his bathroom book. Which
there you
is,
go.
honestly, you guys, that was kind of my intention with the book. It
I almost it looks like a bathroom book. It looks like something that I have in my bathroom.
It's mostly how
Buy the great trees of California for your bathroom now.
Your guests will love it.
That promo you did kind of leads into the promotional videos that you were.
Yeah, I want to talk about those so bad.
Do you have any specific questions about those you want to ask, John?
No, it's more because when we were talking about how you got your inspiration for the book and making it where trees are sort of just, you talk about them from how they, no, I don't want to say like how they make you feel, but just more like your perspective on that one tree, each, you know, singular person's. All of your videos, it seemed like you even tried to like include different people every once in a while. You just be like, hey, what do you think about this tree? Like, that was, I loved it.
Yeah, no, they were very entertaining.
Yeah. Some people fit that really well. Like, I was walking to class one day and I was like, I'm kind of late, but what? There's a ponderosa pine in a redwood forest. What is going on? So, like, I'll hit that. Like, I'll be like, guys, I have inspiration. And then so I'll just start recording. And you have to like let it flow. Yeah. It's like improv.
You do it very convincingly.
No, it's so, you seem so passionate. It was like the most entertaining thing to watch because I wasn't sure if it was comedy or if you were just super involved or if it was all just kind of an act for your book, which I didn't even kind of realize it was for your book.
Yeah.
Until you were like, hey, by the way, my book's out. I was like, whoa.
Whoa.
I just thought you really liked trees.
Well, it's both, baby.
Yeah, there we go. Simple as that, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, there was the one where I think in the Ponderosa Pine one, you were saying like you just put the camera on some random guy that was walking by.
He was just walking to class. He had no idea what was going on.
But it made it look like he was there for the video. Like, I thought he was there until you explained to me like, no, he was just there. I just asked him the question.
He was an agent of the tree. The tree sent me down. Because his word, I think he was like, I'm like, what do you think about this? And like my expression is so like, I'm like so into it, like, you know, and he's just like, I think he read that and he was like, it's baffling.
Now I remember that. It's baffling. That's the best line about a tree I've ever heard.
It's baffling.
You can't make that stuff up.
Yeah. Right.
But then your sign off always like your sign off, when I hear the name of the book, I hear it in your sign off, which is, how did it go again? Is it, you say it.
It's like Rylie Miller here with Great Trees of California.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I get like the thumb in there, like awkwardly. Yeah. You know?
No, it was great, and it kind of wanted me like for me wanted you to spawn off an actual like video series talking about trees the way you talk about them in the book.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I kind of wanted that too. Yeah. I just wanted to keep getting surprised with these videos of you just like talk, and they didn't even have to be long, just like a short, like 1.5-minute web series of you literally just saying like, you know, I was just walking out here, you know, I'm ready to go, you know, do some gardening, but you know, look at this fern. Look at that. And then just get so involved.
I was gonna make a tree video today, but you guys, I got insecure. I was like, I don't know. I mean, it happened, you know?
No.
Like, everybody has those moments. I was raking my grandpa's yard, and then I stumble upon this ponderosa pine cone, and he lives by the river.
And there's no trees.
There's no pine trees. It's just huge oak trees. So I was like, Steven, my stepdad, he was working there. So I was like, do you see this? And he's like, what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? Steven, it's a ponderosa pine cone. And he's just like, I'm gonna go back to work. I didn't care, but yeah. So I wanted to make a video about that. We're actually gonna do a monthly newsletter.
Oh wow!
For the people that are interested.
Yeah.
Just because it's fun for us to do it, and if people are getting value out of it, then why not, right?
Do that, and you keep like a little DVD too of you talking about trees together. Like you and your dad make a tree video like that. I would love to see that.
I would totally.
Like a double team video. You know, like do a little DVD. It doesn't even have to be much. You know, just.
Yeah, like get your dad involved, because like I know what your dad looks like through the photos.
Yeah.
And I know what he's like through his writing. but I've never met him.
Right.
Yeah.
So that would be interesting.
He's a total dad.
Yeah.
I love him so
like you
much.
said,
That's what I picked up on too,
He's a
right?
If you check out my Twitter, it's at Rylie_Miller, and all the tree videos are on there.
Yeah. We'll link those.
Yeah.
Link
Be
those.
down there in the description.
You know, I try to put them up on Instagram too, but I don't know. I'm still figuring out the social media
Gotcha.
aspect.
What's your Instagram handle?
My Instagram is at hooded_Caucasian.
Okay.
We'll link that as well.
Link that as well.
Yeah.
I stayed with that name because it's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Like somebody's
it is
like,
intriguing.
what is that?
What is the hooded Caucasian?
Check it out. But so we're trying to put together like a monthly newsletter about like cool stuff in the area, and we want to like incorporate parts of like the tree hikes in it. Like we'll videotape the tree hikes and talk about the people like on it and write about it and have like little questions from the people and send it out monthly.
Oh,
That sounds really cool. You're gonna go by email?
Yeah. So
That'd be awesome.
we have a website set up. It's called
really?
greattrees.info.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh, I didn't know that.
If you go to this website, there's just one widget up there, and it just says add your email here.
Okay.
And so we're just trying to build an email list to
That'd
get
be
people
cool.
to send it to.
And then you could just like leave a link to like a YouTube video of you guys just talking about like trees together.
Exactly.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I'm gonna put my email on
Yeah.
after this.
We're going there. There's gonna be so many links in this video, and hopefully, I mean, our 25 listeners. I know you guys are out there.
yeah.
You go ahead and join that list.
It's, if you guys want to buy a copy of The Great Trees of
No,
California,
definitely
Tell
support
us,
it.
tell
Come
us
on.
Can I
where-
plug?
Yeah,
Oh,
no.
totally.
Okay.
Go for it.
So if you buy it off Amazon, that's cool. You know what I mean, right? That's cool. But if you buy it off me as a person, like I have 200 copies.
Oh,
you know,
I didn't know
plus or
that.
minus at my house.
Dang, I should have just said like, also bring a book for me.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, people can like email me or text me, or hit me up on social media,
Okay.
and just like Venmo me the cash, and I can send it out directly to them, and I'll have my dad and I sign it for you.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
You know, it's a lot easier for me to do it like that because then we can keep track of it and like get feedback from people on
Yeah.
what they did like and what they didn't like. Because one person left a review on Amazon.com, and it was like this like long drawn out
Really?
thing. I think it was my Aunt Lori. Thank you,
Oh.
Aunt Lori.
Shout out to Aunt Lori.
Yeah. So hit me up on those links, people, social media, and I can send you a copy of the book.
Yeah. So for Amazon, does it just come straight from your publisher to the person then, or okay?
So we self-published off of Create Space,
Got it.
which is an Amazon publishing company.
Oh.
And they handle the printing and cost of that, but it's self-publishing, you know. So
Okay.
it's like you don't get any publicity or anything like that.
Got it.
But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Because I did know that you were self-publishing, but I didn't know how you went about doing that. So that is interesting. I was talking to somebody about this book, and they said that they had coincidentally been also reading a book about trees.
Okay.
But what was bothering them about it was that the person who wrote it was like some arborist, like biology guy who had been studying trees his whole life.
Very educated on the subject.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so he got like the facts and the ecology of the different tree species across very well, but to do so he personified the trees.
Nice.
Okay.
And the person I was talking to didn't like that he personified the trees.
How
And
did he personify them?
so there was like the trees when they were, I don't remember what trees we were talking about, but like when they sustained injury, they would release pheromones to communicate to the other trees that they were under duress, and then the other trees could take proactive measures to prevent that from happening to them,
Right,
like
right.
an insect infestation or something.
Sounds like it's gonna end up building to be some sort of like after school special where it's like Mr. Bear came up to Mrs. Tree.
Yeah.
And then punched Mrs. Tree.
Yeah, no.
And the pheromone. It's this animated thing, 40 style, got that grainy filter and everything. You know?
Yeah. Well, the way he personified them was, instead of saying that, he explained that the tree released pheromones, but the way he did it was saying that the tree yelled out for help or screamed in pain or something.
I never liked that when they did that in educational books.
And so the person I was listening to, or the person I was talking to, didn't like that they had done that. But when I introduced your book to them, they really enjoyed it.
Oh.
But I felt like your book personified the trees to some extent as well. So
yeah.
But it's not quite the same as they don't act as humans. They just kind of give off a human-like essence. And as you've explained already, that is endowed by the people who are tree watching.
It's relative to the person tree watching.
Yeah. So, any thoughts on that?
I would say that if you're like, however you want to describe trees is great.
Yeah.
You know, if you can make trees interesting, like, good for you. And I like the way we did it because sometimes we like gendered the trees. My dad gendered the trees a lot more than I did, and then I caught on to it afterwards. But if you can like give them attitudes, like I said, one of the oaks was sassy.
Yeah, I like that.
I was like,
was that the white oak?
I think it's the blue oak.
Damn.
Because like I read like the
Gotta reread it.
Yeah, I gotta brush up.
I read like the history of the blue oak, and apparently it's like more related to trees up in Oregon, oaks up in Oregon. And I was like, you know what? This tree was just like, I'm gonna go to California and make my fortune. You know, like try to give it a sassy vibe. I guess.
Yeah.
One of the things I really liked was when was it you or your dad who wrote about eucalyptus trees?
My dad more than me, but I added on to it.
Because I liked the way he described that as like something that came and invaded California because it's not native to California. Right. But then it was like, I forgot the word that it was used to describe it, but it was like a peaceful invader. It was someone that like we are now one with the eucalyptus. Because I loved that line. Yeah. You got to find it in the book because it's got to be like, I'm butchering it with the way I'm remembering it.
It's been naturalized. It really loves but who doesn't love California? Who doesn't love California?
Spoken like a true Californian.
Yeah. Here's the eucalyptus. Oh, okay, it actually got a blue ribbon for that. The eucalyptus gets the blue ribbon for being the gentlest invasive species.
Okay. Yeah. That was good.
And I mean, I always wondered, like, if koala bears came over, too. Like, would they just chill in the eucalyptus trees? And
maybe they just didn't make it, but the eucalyptus stayed.
Right. I don't know what happened. Yeah. So
that would be cool. We should just, hop on down under and smuggle some some koalas back.
Yeah. Just some Australians. We need the Aussies.
We need the Australians. Yeah.
We'll steal them. We'll take them to Outback.
It's funny.
Feed them blooming onions till they puke.
The eucalyptus was one of the had the record for the tallest tree in the world at one point. It's a certain kind of eucalyptus that lives in Tanzania.
Okay.
Or
Tasmania.
Okay. Yeah, Tanzania. Yeah.
Close enough. The Tanzanian devil,
It lives over there. It was 309 feet tall.
Wow.
Which is comparable to like redwood trees. Like,
how wide was that tree then? Was it really wide, or was it still only eucalyptus width?
I mean, it had to have been big.
Okay.
The thing about it though, it was hollow.
Whoa.
It was like hollowed out. So a fire came through there.
Oh, it's gone.
And it like went into the bottom, and then like it's this vacuum, and it just burns up all the air inside it, and it detonated. It just exploded.
I can imagine. I mean, eucalyptus burns hot too. So.
Yes.
Wow.
It's kind of like fragrant. It was a really like perfumey explosion. Perfumey explosion.
Yeah. It smells so good.
No, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, no.
So that's interesting because how tall is the tallest redwood on record?
The tallest redwood on record is the Hyperion tree at 317 feet.
317 feet.
But recently it lost. It was going bald. I call it balding or thinning.
Is that when the water stops going to the top of the tree? Yeah. We're learning.
So it's like it reduced itself like 6 or 7 feet. So I think it's like 309 now.
Oh, so the same height as that eucalyptus then?
Yeah.
It's a sign. We better protect that tree.
But there's records from old loggers that came up here like 1920s, 1800s even, of like 600-foot tall trees.
Wow.
Like I wish that those were still around because that would be incredible. Like that.
Beasts, that would be man. Like that's stumps the size of half of this room.
Wow.
Stumps the size of half of this room, like massive, and you can still go walk on them.
Man, this is a big room.
That's intimidating.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. That is really really impressive. There is you know all of these things about these different species of trees. Are you familiar with trees outside of California, or do you mostly just stick to the state?
Well, I'm not like I'm not as familiar with other California or outside of California trees, just because I learned so much about California trees from this book. But I do know a little bit. Like
okay, yeah. Well,
we don't have any trivia. Yeah, I wish we had.
I would
pull up a Quizlet all about just pictures them. What is this tree?
Yeah. But no, because I remember I knew you were pretty well versed in trees, and there's an argument that many Californians have with each other, which is are palm trees native or not?
Palm trees are native.
Yeah,
So there's
and
one.
so I texted you and you got back to me and tell us. Well, I don't know. Do you want to spoil this part of the book because it's okay? Yeah, go ahead.
I'll make it interesting.
Tell us.
I'll get him intrigued.
There we go. This is what the book's all about, right here. Ladies
How
and
many
gentlemen.
how many palm trees do you think are in California, indigenously?
Like nobody planted them.
Like
there? I don't remember a number being in the book.
Well, how many do you think?
I would think. I mean, it just doesn't seem like there would be more than even like 1,000.
Well, remember, California is like dense up here, but then you get down to the desert.
I'm thinking like down, like they probably were more towards like that LA area, and since there's not a lot of water, I can't imagine there being, like I said, like more than 1,000 trees like native.
And there's, I
was just gonna say that you gave me the story already, so I'll recuse myself from answering because I have a bit of an idea. But.
So and there's only there's. I think it's the Californica Washingtonia. No, please don't quote me on that or blur that out or something. I don't want to be like the tree guy that messes up his names. But there's one grove of palm trees in California
that are native.
It's the only oasis in Northern California, actually. It's the only oasis in North America.
Oh, wow.
It's an actual like palm tree oasis. It's called 49 Palms Oasis down near Joshua Tree. I'm
guessing 49 palms.
There's 49. Yeah.
Good job! Whoa! How did you do? That's uncanny.
There's 49 of them in that grove down there, and there's like goats. There's like mountain goats that come and hang out.
Wow.
And we went down there, and it's like the sun was setting. We were looking around, and there's this huge rock. And I go up on this huge rock, and we're in this crazy fan palm oasis down there, and the sun's going down, and it's like red orange sky, and I'm standing on this great rock overlooking everything, and I look down on the rock, and there's a lot of poop on the rock. There's a lot of poop, and I was like, why is there so much poop on the rock? And there's like a sign next to it that says, this rock, like the billy goats use this rock to come in and
as a bathroom.
And I was like, I'm standing on the bathroom. Okay, I gotta go somewhere else.
That's really weird.
It's weird.
So then,
every palm tree in California, for the most part, is taken from there, though. Like, there's
okay. So they're still native to California. They're just not. They're not like palm trees from, say, like Hawaii or anything like that. They're not.
No, I mean some of them are.
I can imagine some, but I mean, like most are actually the native California palm trees, just put other places.
Exactly.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And there's a story in the book. You should read the book about
I can't spoil too much.
The controversy over the fan palm. So
okay, yeah.
There's a controversy in there.
That is interesting.
But I'll leave that to the readers.
Okay. Then that the fan palm, which is what you detail how to identify that. And now that I find that palm trees, when I see them, I find that most of them are fan palms.
Right.
Like you said. But then there's also the idea, are they only in California or can they be found elsewhere?
I think that's the only native grove of them in North America.
Okay.
So I don't think you can find them anywhere else.
Another question though I had for you, because this is kind of a West Coast discussion.
It is.
This is, but then also this other topic that I'm going to present, because I was in Oregon once I was on a tour and the tour guide was from Washington.
Yeah.
And so he pointed to what I recognized as manzanita and said, see, in California they call this plant manzanita, in Oregon they call it madrona, but you're both wrong. I'm from Washington and we call it madrone. So I was always under that assumption that it's the same plant, it just has a different name in each state. Oh. But other people have called me out on that and said I'm wrong. And your book gives a separate chapter to at least two of those three names.
Yeah.
So what, as our local expert, what would you say about that?
Well, I want to ask, what were you looking at? Like, could you describe, like, what color was the bark? Was it thinner, taller?
Okay, so that is...
how big were the leaves? Were they glossy?
I don't remember the leaves that much.
Were they this big or were they this big?
I wouldn't be able to say. I do remember the bark pretty well though.
Matters.
Because
in the tree watching community, ladies and gentlemen.
That was another one of the things that came up. It was like, yeah, we measured him. It's a man thing. Like, that was really funny. I think your father must have written that part of the introduction because that was so funny to me.
Great.
But no, the bark was it was like the smooth kind of what you expect. I was used to the red color in this area of
like
California.
the darker red.
The darker red.
Yeah.
What I was looking at was orange, but it was the same height as kind of the manzanita shrubbery that I'm used to. But then in the in the book you actually show a picture of a very wide manzanita tree. So I suppose that it has different forms, but that this it was orange. The bark was orange, not red.
I want to say it was a madrone then. It makes sense for like local places to have a different name for a tree. Like in Oregon, they call what we call the California bay laurel. They call it the pepperwood tree.
Okay.
And they have different names for it. But if it had orange bark, like we call that madrone.
Okay.
And the Latin name for that is Arbutus mansettii, and it's named after a Scottish discoverer who, like a Scottish naturalist who came over. And the madrone and the manzanita are related, but they're not.
They're not the same tree.
Okay.
So what
one's
is
a shrub, one's a tree.
Okay. So
Yeah.
is that what the main difference is?
Yeah, for the most part. One's a shrub, one's a tree. They can't, you don't see manzanitas and madrones growing in the same place because madrones prefer like wet, like arid, well-drained soil. So you're going to see it on like hillsides, but also with a lot of rain. Manzanita is kind of really intense and just grows in like packs in the direct sun.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You spoke that nomenclature very well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's because you actually have a history with Latin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to get into that at all? Or?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's some of the like really cool Latin names in for the trees, in my opinion.
Okay.
Just because I was a classics scholar in high school and all that. Like the oldest tree in the world, the bristlecone pine. Its Latin name is Pinus longiva.
That makes sense.
And Pinus is like pine, but longiva is like longevity.
So, I remember hearing that name and laughing.
Longiva. And
Long Pinus.
Long. That's good. Oh man. And so it helps a little bit. Like if you look at Arbutus mansettii, like the Latin name for tree is arbor. Arbutus is very similar to arbor, you know. But then mansettii is this really arrogant Scottish dude who's like, you know what? Instead of using the binomial like system for what it's worth, I'm just gonna put my name in there. And he put mansettii.
Okay, because I heard mansettii and thought manzanita, but manzanita you explain came from a Spanish word, right, for little apple.
Yeah,
Probably. We don't know.
It's I think little apple. I mean, I don't know much Spanish.
Oh, well, no, I know a little bit of Spanish, and I remember reading that. I was like, huh, that's cool. How do you say little apple in Spanish? And I was like, manzanita. I was like, oh, okay.
Is it literally?
Yeah, it's manzanita. That's,
in Spanish?
That's an American pronunciation of little apple in Spanish.
That's great.
And then I had a question.
Yeah.
If that's okay. This is not even about trees, which is kind of the whole reason we brought you here.
Yeah.
But you know what? Whatever. It was more about Latin. When you were taking Latin, did you go to that? Yeah.
I got excited. Like,
Yes, Latin. Woo! Your languages, I love them.
Yeah.
But when you were taking Latin back in high school, did you go to that? It's not JLC or something, but the junior Latin
CJC,
the CJ, the
Junior Classics Convention League.
Yeah. Did you go to that?
Yeah.
Were you the speaker then? Because I remember our teacher raved about someone who could. I thought it was you.
I was.
That was you, because just the way you were saying those Latin phrases, it sounded like you've been speaking Latin your entire life.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people end up and they'll just say it in all those.
I medaled in pronunciation at one of those meets. I got a gold medal in pronunciation.
Yeah.
So that's like statewide. Like I got the honors for that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Thank you. I was proud of it. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this, but
That's really cool.
I got it on the resume. I liked learning Latin as I was writing the book. because
yeah,
you know.
So, yeah, because I mean, I'm sure to
full
somebody with a
circle.
history and understanding of Latin, the names made
more sense.
more sense and told more of a story than it would to somebody who's just like, oh, I know.
Right. So the Joshua tree.
Yeah.
The Joshua tree is the Latin name for it is Yucca brevifolia.
Okay.
And so yucca, I mean, so the biggest secret about the Joshua tree is it's not actually a tree. It's a yucca bush.
Okay.
So it's like the Yucca brevifolia, like brewa means brief, brevity, and then folia is flowering, flowers.
Oh.
So it's Yucca brief flowering, or flowers, whatever you want.
Is the Joshua tree the tree that only has flowers once a year or twice a year during the solstices, or is it just the one summer solstice?
No, the Joshua tree has not during the summer solstice. Their flowers are actually in the wintertime.
Okay.
And they flower for like 3 months out of the year.
3 months. Okay.
That's why it's called brief flowering.
Got it.
It's got such a short time of flowering. Did you read the part, like the Joshua tree chapter?
Yeah, I read most of the book. It was more just like I didn't get to really dive in and enjoy it as much as I wanted to.
I included the Shasta Lake caverns in it.
Yeah.
I think so, because one of like the ways the Joshua tree would spread out before the Ice Age is these huge ground sloths that were called the Shasta ground sloths that were like 50 feet in length, would go around and like eat the seeds and then mosey somewhere else and like poop them out. And it's like a perfect thing for them because they were pooped out in fertilizer, you know, because like manure is good fertilizer, and so that's how they would disperse. You know, and after the Ice Age, the Shasta ground sloth didn't exist anymore, so the location of the Joshua trees is pretty much where they're gonna be.
That's awesome.
Until they go away.
Okay, wow.
Please go see the Joshua trees. That's my
Yeah, that's really interesting. I do remember that. I forgot that.
The fossils for the Shasta ground sloth are up in Shasta caverns.
That's cool.
By the way, that's what I wanted to plug.
I didn't know that.
You can go see them. They're huge, man.
I need to go back and because there's so much to see in our area, and I just feel like I let it all go to waste because I never go out. I just kind of sit here and edit podcasts. That's my life now.
There you go.
I did go on I chaperoned for a 3rd grade class that was going on a tour of the Shasta Caverns recently, and they did not point out any ground sloth fossils.
Oh.
I hope I'm not wrong.
I don't know.
Could you imagine?
I hope I'm not wrong.
I hope I
Hopefully not.
yeah. I feel like I got ripped off from my ground sloth experience.
You
but-
did.
Now
Gosh
you
darn
just
it.
took it. You set it up, and then you just pulled the rug right out from under me. Now I'm on the ground. I'm crying. I want my mommy. I got my thumb in my mouth. I want a binky. I need some candy.
Want some Joshua tree seeds?
Are they tasty?
I have no idea. Pine nuts are tasty though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you one of the things I was gonna ask? Did you go all over California to see all kinds of different trees? Like, did you know okay, we're gonna go here to look at this tree, we're gonna go here to look at this other tree, or was it more just like we're gonna go everywhere and then we're just gonna look for trees while we're experiencing this place?
It's a mix of both.
Okay.
It's a mix of both. On some of them, there's a picture of a sycamore in front of Chico State. And my dad took that when I had a track meet at Chico State.
Okay.
So when you see the trees, you take a picture of the trees.
Got it.
And the other pictures of sycamores in there we took when we were in Cal Poly area,
San Luis Obispo.
Slow. So a lot of them we took when we were down there, and that's because I was touring colleges down there to transfer for. Okay. And then so when we checked out the Joshua trees, I think we were touring UCLA.
Okay.
And we were just like, we're so close to the desert. Why not go down there and check it out?
That is really cool.
Did you get to see the Joshua trees when they were blooming too? When they were flowering?
We saw them the year after we wrote about them. We saw them, and I have there's this funny picture where I'm looking at them. I'm just like, oh my god, it's so beautiful. And I'm kind of sunburned, and there's hair in my face, but I'm just loving the tree.
Well, I remember you wrote that section about the Joshua tree, right?
Yeah.
And that one I really enjoyed reading, but you said you went to visit them a year after you wrote about it? Because you write about your excursion to go visit them.
It's vice versa.
Oh, okay.
So we visited them, and that was we visited them the transition between 2014 and 2015 on that winter break. So when we visited them, and I just realized I contradicted myself what I said like 2 minutes ago about seeing them on a spring break. Whatever, that doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, it's fine. Most of it just goes over everyone's heads.
Yeah, most people don't.
I'm not calling our listeners stupid, okay? I'm just saying. Yeah.
we visited them, and we had woken up super early in the morning, and we like walked through this crazy valley in the desert, and like I walked up to this like hill, this mountain, like overseeing all the Joshua trees, and that's where I like wrote a little bit. I just sat there, I pulled out my phone and just wrote about what I saw, and I was like, yeah, we woke up early in the morning and cleared a whole valley of Joshua trees before noon. And then it wasn't until a year afterwards that I picked it up again and like made the final edits to the text. And so it was a year later that I finished it.
Okay.
But it was, I had material from the time of, being there.
Was that how a lot of the writing went? You would be on the journey, and then you would kind of take notes during that, and then you just kind of think back to that time as you were finally writing it. That was maybe a month or two later.
Yeah, that's how a lot of it went. It was it's a 4-year, 3.5 year process. Okay. So it's like the text evolved a lot.
Yeah,
it evolved, and the content evolved a lot, and it was an ordeal.
What was the first chapter you guys ended up writing about? Besides, like, the introduction, what was the first tree that you guys sat down and, or at least maybe you, because your dad probably wrote a tree, but what was the first tree you sat down and you're like, I know I want to write about this, and then you just started going?
The first tree I ever remember writing was the final text. Are you talking about?
I mean, just like the first time when you first sat down, you're like, okay, we're gonna do a book about trees. I'm gonna write about this one because that was the first one that like inspired you.
It was the bristlecone pine.
Okay, because that's actually the first chapter, like that first actual chapter that you get to about trees. And I think you even mentioned
it was our first outing.
Yeah, and it sounds like a pretty harrowing outing, right?
It was intense.
Yeah.
Was it like almost like a spiritual experience for you, or was it more just like it was just literally intense to like physically?
It was intense physically. It was scary. It was cold. I didn't have enough sandwiches.
That is the worst part about looking at trees. There's never enough sandwiches.
Come on our hikes. We'll bring sandwiches.
Promise, for when we do those real trips.
So we had this like front wheel drive van that was like this old red van. There's a picture of it in the introduction. But we drove it up the Inyo Mountains, which is a range within the White Mountains in southeastern California. And it's next to like Tahoe and Heavenly in that area.
Gotcha. He was just there.
Yeah, I was literally just there.
You were close, my friend.
Wow. I did start because I started reading the book a day before we went to Tahoe, and I really did like look at a lot more of the trees, and I was like, wow, these were actually really cool.
They've got beautiful trees down there.
Yeah, they do.
We would like drive. We drove up in the snow in like November, and these like. We were probably like 7,000 feet up elevation-wise. And we're in this van without chains or anything. We're just kind of like driving through someone else's tire, like someone else's tracks.
Gotcha, yeah.
And then we just get out and we're like, all right, time to go walk around in the Joshua tree, or not the bristlecone pine forest until we find the oldest one.
Yeah.
So we like walked around these like moguls, and they were Joshua tree, or I keep saying Joshua tree. They're bristlecone pines, like 5 feet tall, 6 feet tall, like not very tall. Some of them a little bit taller, and they were small, and my dad kept telling me, he's like, this could be the oldest one right here, or this could be the oldest one right here. Like, he was just so adamant about finding it, but I kept saying to myself, I was like, there's no way that can be the oldest tree, because I've seen pictures of the oldest tree, and it's this wind-blown, like, beautiful art piece and monument of time.
Yeah.
5,000 years old. And so we go home, back to the hotel, and he's like, my dad just like, he's like, you know what, you're right, that wasn't the oldest tree, and he just gets all like into it, and he like puts on his vest, and he's like looking through like really intense maps of California, and he finds this little thing that says Methuselah tree on a map of the mountain we were on.
Oh.
Which is the name of the oldest tree in the world.
Okay.
It's Methuselah tree. And so the next day he's like, Rylie, like, this is where it's at, dude. We gotta go find it. And I was like, okay, we're gonna do it. And we get up there, and it's probably about like 6 o'clock. The sun's...
AM or
PM.
Yeah, okay.
So the sun's kind of like going down, and we had driven up 3,000 feet upwards from the place we were at the day before.
Wow.
And it was like, sun was going down, getting kind of dark, and it was getting icy up there.
Yeah.
And we're in this van, and it's like slipping and sliding, and then I check out the window, and it's just this drop, like a huge drop. It's like we're on like the peak of a mountain.
Yeah.
And then we look up, and there's still like so much more to go.
Wow.
So we're just like, and the tracks end that we were following.
Yeah.
So we got some chains. We're like, all right, oh my god, okay, we're just gonna try it. And he's like, and he tries to drive.
This is only
up the
2-wheel
mountain.
drive, right? So
Only, only front wheel drive. Like not even rear wheel drive.
Wow.
And are you thinking at any point like, I don't know if this book is worth it?
See, at that point, the book was just an idea.
Okay.
And it was just hanging out with Dad.
Okay.
So it was sweet, but he was scaring me at that point. He was really
I've been in that
scaring me.
situation too, where like your dad, you're like, yeah, I'm having a good time, but Dad's making some weird choices on the icy road.
Yeah, on the icy road, on a mountain, in the snow. And he's like, Riley, he looks over at me. We're like trying to go up more, and it's like not working. It's slipping, sliding around. I'm just like, oh my god, like freaking out. He looks at me, he's like, Riley, get out of the car.
Oh.
I was like, what do you mean, Dad? He's like, I'm gonna try and turn this around. And the place he was trying to turn it around on was like this switchback of a road.
Got it.
So if he slipped in like the momentum of the car, it could have carried him off the mountain.
Jeez.
So he's like, looks over at me. He thought about that and looks over at me. And says, "Get out of the car."
Because he didn't. Well, then wait. Because he didn't want you to go over with the car and him in it, or like.
Well, then you freeze at the top of the mountain. It's
Yeah.
like there's no winning here.
You guys, I could have made it down. But
I'm the tree man.
I think that was his intention though. Like he was like, please, like I don't want you to. I think he talks about, he's like, his mom would have killed me if the or something.
Yeah.
But he tries to like turn it around, and I'm just like standing there, and it's getting dark and cold, and he's like sliding, trying to turn this van around, and it was scary.
But he pulled it off.
He pulled it off.
So did you never made it to see the tree?
Well, we came back the next year in the summertime.
Okay.
Smart.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of snow in the summer.
I want to go up there and camp because there's a cool campsite.
Yeah.
Plug, like go to the Bristlecone Pine Forest, please, and check it out because their stars up there are beautiful.
I have
There's
to
no
imagine,
light
yeah.
pollution. It's just
And like if the moon is out, you get to like walk in this crazy like trail that's like 2 stories, like it intermingles with another trail, and it's these like 15-foot tall trees, not super tall, but their wood is like beautiful and all these different shades of brown, and it's like you can feel something when you're around these trees. I'm not saying that from a super spiritual standpoint. I'm saying that from like a humanistic standpoint.
Yeah.
Like it's also alive, and it's been alive for 5,000 years. You have some connection with it, whether you believe it or not.
That's really cool. How are we doing on time?
it's actually, we are going on a little over an hour now.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, that went by so fast.
It did, yeah. And I was trying to get in as like many hits as I could.
Do you have any more?
I think like I was just thinking to myself as you were telling that story, I was like, that is the best place to end. Like that was
Perfect.
The perfect story to end and finally turn on AC because my God, it is so hot here. It's 115 outside and we're in a very small room with the worst insulation.
Perfect.
But that was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing so much with us.
Yeah, and before we go though, you want to go over again where everybody can find you and what they need to be checking out.
Yeah, I gotta delete some of my tweets, but so look at my social media is find me at Twitter at Rylie_Miller. Rylie is spelled RYLIE, and Instagram is at hooded_Caucasian, and my Snapchat. I don't want to give out my Snapchat.
That's okay. No, we'll just not even bring that up.
Yeah. And go to our website, greattrees.info, and put your email on the mailing list. Just type in your email, and we're not going to spam you until at least 2018 because that's when we're planning to release the weekly or the monthly newsletter.
Awesome.
All right.
So check that out.
Cool. Yeah, then
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed our second guest of Another New Voice show. Thank you to Caleb for our fantastic music. Thank you to Lydia for the amazing art as always. And Riley, do you want to say something?
Great Trees of California. Thank you very much.
great, I was hoping you'd do that.
Yes, there we go. That's the podcast. See you next week, ladies and gentlemen.
Bye-bye.
Bye, babies.